I'm Joe Zagarelli, and I'm making this video to talk about gun control and more specifically philosophy on gun control. Um, so, my specific purpose is to determine whether the right to own guns is an ethical right. And so, my argument is yes, the right to own a gun is an ethical right, as is one and the same with the right to self defense. There are many fundamental rights, most of them developing around the fundamental right and the fundamental interests of the right to live, the right to access to food, the right to access to water, the right to access to shelter. Um, so, would that not mean that the right to defend oneself is also a right? I believe most people would say so. Philosophers, libertarians, most of the general population would agree. So, yes, defending oneself is a right. And if so, does that not mean that we have the right to do so with justifiable or necessary firepower? If we have the right to the access to food, the right to access to water, the right to access to shower, as means to defend our fundamental interests of living, then we deserve the right to access to arms to protect ourselves and our lives and our interest of living. So, if we're gonna look at this, you know, with a very stringent view, as most people do on in terms of gun control, then we'll look at gun control in terms of self defense as more an obvious fundamental right. According to the Mises Institute, since we already have determined that the right to defend oneself with the right to access to food, the right to access to water, the right to access to shelter, that's all defending your life and your ability to live on this earth. So we know that defending oneself is a fundamental right. If then one has, so according to the Midas Institute, if then one has the right to self defense, does it not follow that one has the right to use suitable means to exercise that right? The argument for that is yes. People obviously do deserve the right to have the means to protect themselves with guns. That just makes sense. You have the right to defend yourself with water. Your water defends the dehydration from killing you. Food allows you to not starve from dying. It defends your body from decaying. Shelter it defends you from any outside sort of danger, whether it be an animal, whether it be, Mother Nature herself, rain, hypothermia, almost everything. It defends you from all of that. So why does it not work out that you can also, well, it does work out, but I'm on the other side of private ownership, which some would argue. Why would it work out that way that you could not protect yourself? That doesn't make sense. You have the right to protect yourself with food, water, shelter, everything else. That's something everyone believes they should have. But yet not all people believe they should have the right to defend themselves with guns. So we have to look at gun ownership as a fundamental right. But a fundamental right is one that meets very rigorous standards. Fundamental right is a non derivative right protecting a fundamental interest. This is important because we can very definitively say that we have a right to live. We have a right to defend ourselves. This should mean we have the right to properly be prepared to do so. Therefore, if we have the right to properly be prepared to do so, and if we have the right to defend ourselves, and if we have the right to if we have the right to live, then is it not a fundamental interest for us to protect that? Just as it is the right to access to food, water, shelter, the access to proper means to defend our life must be a fundamental right. Therefore, the right to access to guns, not simply the right to food, water, and shelter just being there for you, the right to access to it is what is necessary. We need to have gun shops. We need to be able to check these people, make sure that they're not, you know, there's not something wrong with them. They don't have a mental disorder. That they're not a criminal. and they're at least 18 years of age or just a determined age that says that they can walk around with a gun and have something to protect themselves at all times because they're in the right mindset and that they actually understand life and death in terms of maybe a prefrontal lobe being formed once the human is 18. Um, so the Second Amendment is obviously going to be a huge topic here in terms of gun control. And so the amendment here states a well regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. According to the libertarianrepublic.com, the modern definition of a militia originates in the Militia Act of 1903, which defines it as every able-bodied male citizen of the respected states, territories, and the District of Columbia, and every able-bodied male of foreign birth who has declared his intention to become a citizen who is more than 18 and less than 45 years of age. However, in today's society, obviously, this applies to males and females. But as you see, the militia is any free-bodied citizen, free-bodied, able-bodied citizen. That is us, the people, the same people that fought for this country, the same people that took Britain out of here, that made this America in 1776. And I think that it's very, very necessary in today's society that we consider the ability to have access to guns as a fundamental right. Thank you.